and they gave us a preview screening for The Little Mermaid, and then the animation world went crazy, and so there was so much excitement, so many studios trying to create animation departments and programs, and there just weren't that many animators in the world, and so really from right out of the gate. I went to CalArts for 1 year, and then that summer I got my first job in animation.
From the Florida Parent Educators Association, home of the largest homeschool convention in America, this is the Not by the Book podcast. I'm your host, FPEA Chairman Suzanne Nunn, and together we will hear from guests who share their journey to who and where they are today. Each one of them at some point left the expected path, ripped the page out of the book that says you have to do it like this, and made their own way. I hope these conversations inspire you as much as they do me. Today I have a great conversation with Chad Stewart, animator, creator, and founder of the animation course. We talk about childhood dreams and the determination that it takes to see them through sometimes. And of course, we talk about family and how family life can have such an enormous impact on what we believe we can do. Join me now to listen in. What was it like to be Chad as a little boy?
I was always drawn to things that were funny. I told my parents once I just wanted to be a funny guy. And so I love to laugh. I think there was something magical about just being drawn into this world where people were smiling and they were happy. And I think that really was what drew me into animation, these magical worlds where, for me, the cartoons I was most drawn to were the funny cartoons, and then drawing pictures and funny pictures. And so I just, that was always kind of what I like to spend my time doing and think about.
So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Houston, Texas, in actually Clear Lake City, which is the planned community for NASA, for Johnson Space Center. So when they say Houston, we have a problem. That's where they're talking. My dad worked for NASA and worked for as a computer scientist for many of the moon launches and some of the space shuttle stuff too.
That must have made for a pretty interesting and exciting.
It was. Yeah, and you don't think about it because all of my friends, when I went to school, their dads worked in the space program. People were from all over, so it was quite an international community, and so you don't think about it till later. A lot of people that I'll come in contact with or will talk to on Facebook will all talk about how kind of unusual it was and how interesting, but also difficult, because I knew 3 people who lost their parents on the Challenger. And that was just, I think that's when it really hit home, because I was in high school and you realized, oh, that thing that we all look at as the space program was bigger than just our community, and bigger, the stakes were higher.
Yeah. I would think that in that kind of community and growing up in that environment, it probably was also very positive influence on you, as far as like there's no boundaries, and sky's the limit, literally, and your imagination can kind of run wild, because if you can think it, we can do it. I would think that you also grew up in a scenario that made you feel and think in that way too. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, that's very insightful, because I've always, I look back again, my dad worked for NASA. That seemed pretty normal to me. So for me to say, hey, I want to work for Disney, even though I wasn't anywhere near Disney, sounded like a pretty good idea. And why not? So I think there was a lot of that in people, and maybe it was the era too, but it just seemed like that seemed a lot more
Mm-hmm.
hopeful during when I grew up than in comparison to people I talk to, young people I talk to now.
Yeah, I
So
think that that's great. How many siblings did you have, or did you have siblings?
two sisters, one older, one
Okay.
younger.
And so you go through pretty much growing up, and you say you were in high school still when you lived in Houston and in that area. So
Hmm.
at what point, like it usually in high school, like you've already got your these are the things we do to pass time. These are the sports I play. What was your interest? What was drawing you in during those years?
Yeah. So I like I said, I always like to draw. I always like to draw characters, write stories, but that was nothing I did
Mm-hmm.
formally. So I decided I wanted to be an animator around sixth grade,
Okay.
uh, and so in my mind that was taken care of. And there was one college that I could go
Mm-hmm.
to, and that was Cal Arts in North LA. So I figured, okay, now I'll just enjoy myself. And so I was part of choir. We were it was a very large high school. We had a little over 2,000 people in high
Wow.
school, and so I wasn't big enough to play sports. Although I loved playing basketball and I played
Mm-hmm.
baseball, but I never played for the high school team. And I like to hang out with my friends and putt putt golf, and I felt like it was really
Yeah.
fun. All sorts of I did some plays and I did some other things, and but I think my senior year of high school was the first time I took a serious art class, because that was I had to make a portfolio to try to get into this college, and that was the first time I think I started taking art
How
seriously.
did that transition for you? Because when you're doing that growing up, and I know a lot of kids that, they'll just draw and doodle and they have fun with it. What did it feel like for you to make that switch to now it's a formal class that I'm working with?
Yeah, it was quite a journey, and so I took this art class, and it wasn't animation's a very specific kind
Mm-hmm.
of art, and deals with a lot of movement and motion and energy, and typical high school art class doesn't deal with that. And but I could draw really well, and I knew that in the art class I was one of the better students, and so I wasn't really. I thought this was what I'm supposed to do, and I'm glad I did. But when I put this portfolio together for CalArts, I was rejected, and so that was a new
Mm.
experience for me, was to receive critique, to tell me I wasn't good enough because I had always sort of been one of the better artists I knew, and so then I went to University of North Texas and started studying art and studying all of these different types of things and hearing back from CalArts what I needed. Second year, I still didn't get in. And that's when I started to have to face, okay, I've said to myself for half my life at
Mm-hmm.
that point, or at least my
Right,
conscious
right.
life, that this is what I'm going to do. So am I really going to do this? What do I need to do? And I had a great teacher at North Texas who actually wouldn't accept one of my assignments because he could tell that I didn't spend enough time on
Mm.
it. And so I started to have to think, I'm gonna have to get serious about this. I'm gonna have to accept that there are places I need to improve. I'm gonna have to spend time. I'm gonna have to work, and that happened when I was about 19. And that third year, then I'm flying without a net, really, and really a lot more invested, and worked a lot harder on creating that portfolio. And that third year, I did get
So
in.
you made your dream school. after 3 years,
Yes.
3 tries.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a lot to say for not quitting and giving up on that, because a lot of people would have taken that as like a, nope, I'm not going to try that again, right? So,
Right.
so
Right.
tell me how it felt. How did it feel to get in, and what was that experience like?
Oh, it was great. I can still remember walking in with the mail, and I was at home by myself. I'm not exactly sure where everybody else was, but I opened up the letter and saw that I'd been accepted, and and kind of yelled, rejoiced, and threw the letter, which I don't know why I threw the letter, but I did, and so, but I really didn't realize how significant that was at the time. I thought, okay, if I keep trying at this, I can do it. But as I said, back then, that was the only school teaching animation, and it was the only school feeding into the animation industry. And they only accepted somewhere between 20 and 40 students a year. And so it was pretty significant to get in, and then pretty significant to once I got in, realize that now I had a really great opportunity to launch myself into the animation industry.
So, okay, Chad. So, can you, for the listeners that we have today that maybe don't know the significance of Cal Arts, can you share a little bit of the background there and that story with us?
Yeah, so California Institute of the Arts, known as Cal Arts, was uh, set up by Walt Disney himself right before he passed away in the 1960s as a place to train upcoming animation talent, and many of the big names in animation right now, John Lasseter, even Tim Burton, Brad Bird, all went to Cal Arts, were part of those early classes. And so it was really literally the only place in the United States that had an animation training program at a college level.
And
And
one that
so,
was really gearing you up for,
right.
a great career in that,
Yeah.
for people who wanted that, right?
Yeah.
So you're in. How was your
hmm
experience there?
So it was, very challenging, but very exciting.
Mm.
I got there in the fall of '89, so about 3 months before The Little Mermaid comes out,
Okay.
and they gave us a preview screening for The Little Mermaid, and uh, and then the animation world went crazy, and so there was so much excitement, so many studios trying to create animation departments and programs, and there just weren't that many animators in the world,
Mm.
and so uh, really from right out of the gate. I went to CalArts for 1 year, and then that summer I got my first job in animation, and I would work during the day and get school credit, and then go to class at night, and got my degree in, I want to say, 91, 91, I think. Maybe it bled into 92, but yeah, I was working basically from the summer of 1990 on, and so exciting, childhood dream, and had been, so much struggle and wonder, is this going to work? And then all of a sudden, it kind of just went to the other side, and it was like, wow, it wasn't that was easy, but it was certainly, there was a lot more momentum
Mm.
behind it. So that was very exciting.
So did you end up getting an animation job at a big studio, or like what ended up working out for you?
So the first job that I got was doing backgrounds for the second season of The Simpsons,
Okay.
and then I only did that for a few months because I really wanted to do the characters. I wanted to be an animator, and so my first animation teacher was his name is Chris Buck, and he was directing a TV show, and so he got me in the union. That the name of that show was called The Family Dog, and so from there I just kept going from sort of these more secondary projects. I worked for Hanna-Barbera for a movie called The Page Master. That turned into Turner Feature Animation. It was a movie called Cats Don't Dance. And then I got into Disney and worked. My first film I worked at Disney was on Tarzan as an animator.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which was also co-directed by Chris Buck, who was my first animation teacher. So that networking plays a really big part.
That's great. So talk to me a little bit now about at what point in this, timeline did you find, your perfect person and get married and start a family? Like, when did those things start to happen for you?
Yeah. So we met in '92. So we had both graduated. My wonderful wife, Kayla, went to the Master's College, which is in the same town as Cal Arts.
Okay.
Which is the college set up by John MacArthur. And so there was some concern between her friends but we met at church, and then they started to get to know me and realized I was okay. I wasn't the crazy artist. I was a bit, of an artist, but so we got married in '94, which would have been right about the time I was working on The Page Master and Cats Don't Dance and those films. And then when The Lion King came out right around that time, mid '90s, then what had already been kind of a crazy world of animation now really just took off. That made so much money and then launched the formation of DreamWorks. Warner Brothers wanted to make a feature animation division. A lot more studios were involved, and it really just gave so many opportunities. So a lot of people that left Disney to go to DreamWorks left open a lot of room at Disney. That's how I got in, and Kayla and I met, and were married a year before she got pregnant. We started having kids, and so the '90s was just, so many exciting moments
full of
right
life.
after it. Yes, yeah.
So what has moved you into? Did you all decide to homeschool your children, and was that a decision that was made early on?
Yeah, so the animation production is pretty intense. So I would be working long hours, and when we got to school age, we started thinking, we're kind of looking at everything. I had gone to public school and had a great experience. She had gone to a private Christian school and she had had a great experience. And we had seen the rise of homeschooling. We tried each year we seemed to try something a little bit different. And we found a school that was kind of a co-op where it was 3 days on site and then 2 days at home, and so we did that for a little while. But as they got older, Kayla really got excited about teaching them, about being a part of their life. I liked to be able to see them, and homeschooling gave us the flexibility to say that we could actually work their school schedule around my work schedule. Instead of the other way around. And so if I was working really hard, they could take naps, they could stay up late, they could sleep in, I could still see them, we could still have dinner together. Or if a production ended in March, well, then that became summer vacation, and I could take time off. So we really loved homeschooling for, a number of reasons, but most practically was the flexibility it allowed for me to still be involved in their day-to-day life.
Yeah. Well, so how many kids do you have?
We have 8.
Wow.
Yes, four adopted, 4 birth.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you were a busy guy at that point, but
Yes.
8 kids.
Yeah. Yes. So, we obviously loved when we had our first child. We loved it. and we decided, hey, we'd love to have our kids close together. And so we had four daughters within about 6 years. So they're about
Okay.
6 years spread from oldest to youngest. And we just had a great time. We did all sorts of fun stuff. We're living in LA. I love the beach, and we're doing these great things. And then towards the end of that run in hand-drawn animation, so paper and pencil, was my first 10 years of my career, and I did all of these different things. And I said there were all these great jobs. And then when I left Disney, I got laid off at Disney because, in part, the world was contracting. CG animation and Pixar movies were starting to be more popular. And so when that happened, we also went through this season of health challenges with our daughters. And so we had, RSV, and we had sort of random things like we had a child who was a strep throat carrier, and we had a child who had a kidney infection, and some of these things that were like, are we doing something wrong? Something's not working, and so we were in the hospital, or we were in and out of the hospital, and at one point I was laying in the hospital bed with my daughter, who I think was 3 or 4 at the time, and she was there for a kidney infection. She had this fever, and I was doing this freelance work to try and kind of keep everything going. And I was really sort of struggling and sort of feeling like, okay, God, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how to do this any better, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, if I'm doing anything wrong.
Right.
And so went through that night because I had gotten a call, hey, we need, sorry about your kid, but we need your storyboard tomorrow morning. And then my daughter just grabbed a hold of me and said, Dad, please don't leave. So I'm laying in the bed, I'm not working, and the next morning we walk into at UCLA Medical Center. They have this amazing child hospital facility, and we walk into this room, and I see all of these kids who are just like my daughter, but they're in much worse situations, where they're having their 4th brain surgery, or they are on dialysis, and these little kids. And I thought, I don't need to complain. My daughter's going to get better. And that really started a chain reaction of us starting to think, okay, well, is there something more we should be doing with our lives rather than just the pursuit of these things that we want to do? And that's some friends of ours had adopted, and we started to go down that road. And we adopted twin boys from Liberia. And then 2 years after that, we found out that they had biological brothers. And so then we adopted their older brothers. And all 8 of our children are within that 6-year range.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, so it was an interesting. There were 2 years where we had 8 teenagers.
That's
So
fine.
yeah.
And we'll be right back. What if this summer did more than just fill your teens' time? What if it played a foundational role in who they're becoming? At Excel Summer Leadership Camp, students step into a transformational adventure experience designed to help them discover their calling, discern what truly matters, and learn how to live it out with wisdom and courage. Through outdoor adventure like camping, whitewater rafting, and rock climbing, intentional community, and Christ-centered mentorship, Excel Summer Leadership Camp equips young adults to grow in their leadership, their character, and their faith. Right now, you can get $100 off your next camp session with code FPEA 2026. Learn more and apply today at theexcelcamp.org. And now, back to the show. So, is there anyone who has kind of followed in your footsteps with interest in art animation, anything like that?
I they can draw. There's a few of them that can draw or paint, but I think they saw the kind of crazy world of
The work.
animation industry, right?
Yeah.
And all that, and maybe that um, kept them from seeking that same sort of thing. So most of them have no interest in. They love animation. They love movies.
Right.
But they have no interest in going into
Not
that field.
creating it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So some that like to create videos or do different things and be creative, but yeah, not a full time movie business type job. So.
That's good. So how long did you stay in that world?
After the hand drawn went away, I did a few things during that freelance time to try to figure out what would be next, and there were a lot of different computer animation studios that were kind of starting up. One of my old producers called me from Sony, and he was setting up a new department at Sony Pictures ImageWorks to create a character animation group. And so I got hired in 2001 at Sony and did a lot of different films there. And then really worked off and on for Sony for almost a couple decades. So
Okay.
I did freelance work and kind of went back in and out until about 2015, and that's when we started the animation course, thinking it would be just sort of a side gig.
Yeah. So tell me how you came to that. Like what prompted your thoughts about your new venture there?
Yeah, so we had moved to Spokane from LA in 2007, and to try to. This is when our kids were kind of in the 6 to 12 range, and we thought, this is going to be the only time that I get to really, if this time only happens once in their
Right.
life, and if I want to be a part of it, then so I went freelance. I started doing the back and forth, and we did a bunch of different things, but ended up moving back to LA in 2013. And I knew I needed to get a few more hours, a couple more years worth of hours for the union, for retirement things. And so there was always a little bit of back and forth, but we always wanted to come back to Spokane. And so Kayla had come up with this idea a few years earlier about doing an online class, and I thought, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that, or if I don't know if people would be interested. But we had seen the rise of the online class world with our kids, because they had used it in homeschooling
Right.
as they got older, and really my entire career, at least once or twice a year, I would get someone who knew, was either related to a child or knew of a child that was interested in animation and wanted to see if they could meet with me or talk with me and see how I had gotten into animation. So we knew there were some kids out there that, might like this. And so we decided, hey, let's just give it a go. Maybe it'll be kind of a supplement to the freelance income, and it'll make things a little more stable. And within 2 weeks, Kayla just put it on her personal Facebook. Hey, we're thinking about doing this. And within 2 weeks, we had 40 students.
Wow.
Within a couple of months, we had almost 200 students. And then we started looking at each other going, okay, maybe this will work in a bigger sense. And so I went to my job. I was working full time and just doing that in the evenings. And so went to Sony and kind of restructured some things and still did some work for Sony off and on for a couple of years. But we kind of settled in, got into kind of the 300 students. And we do 3 12-week sessions a year.
Okay.
And usually we have around 3 to 350 for each of those sessions. And realized, okay, now I've got to start thinking about getting help and and doing all these other things. So it became within a year became kind of our full time gig, and we moved back up to Spokane, and we've been doing that for now 11 years.
That's
So
crazy. But I
yeah.
mean, that's really fantastic because you're able to actually start probably earlier than you had the benefit of
Hmm.
helping young kids, work their imagination out and learn how to do animation. And they can get into CalArts maybe first time. Right.
Yeah, and now there's like 100 different places to
Exactly.
go to study animation. So
That's
yeah.
fantastic. So, what is the most rewarding part of it to you? Because I know sometimes online courses don't bring you some of the connectivity that you get in person. How do you kind of break that barrier and what's rewarding to you with that?
Yeah, I think it's been surprising to see that I can connect with some students, and with I'm sure in every teaching situation you're going to connect with certain students and not as much with others. And
Yeah.
it's kind of new to me, but it has been really exciting because we've been doing this long enough that now that first group of 13-year-olds that we brought in, well, now they're in their mid 20s and they've gone through a college program and now they're starting to work and they're starting to be in studios, and I can start to have connection with them, helping guide them into, okay, here's something to think about, or
Yeah.
here's something. And so that's been pretty exciting.
Mm.
And to see, you can just, you can see the light bulbs go off. I've had some students that have come in not even thinking much about animation, but have fallen in love with it. I've had other students come in and realize, oh wait, I don't really want to be an animator. I want to be a storyboard artist.
Right.
And they get more understanding of the process. And we've even had some families that have thanked us, parents that have thanked us, because their student has come in and said, "Oh, no, I love animation, but this is not what I thought it was. This
Mm.
isn't something I really want to do." And so the parents are like, "You saved us so much money that we were going to send them to a college program, and this was so much better for them to get this understanding early, so now they can explore other things."
Right. Right. So, how young do you start working with students to teach animation?
Yeah, so we have students ages 11 to 18, which is our main
Mm-hmm.
age group. We do have one product that I created, which is kind of paint by numbers in a box, except it's animation
Yeah.
for 8-year-olds, because we've had a lot of families come to us say, "My kid loves this. Can they join the class?" And with technology and all of the back and forth, it been just, we've tried it a few times, it just hasn't worked.
Mm-hmm.
So this box will kind of start them in at 8, hopefully to get them ready if they're interested to 11 to kind of through high school. So middle and high school is really where we aim.
That sounds, I mean, honestly, perfect timing, right? Because it is when I think kids really start to think, oh, maybe I can do this with my life. And like you said, some will figure out, well, maybe that's not really what I want. Um, but tell me, and we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. Tell me a little bit, is there anything that you're working on personally that's exciting, or something new that you're working on with the animation course that's exciting to you right now that you would want to share?
Yeah. So the thing that I didn't realize when we started this was that I would be able to kind of have time to do my own personal projects.
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, a few years in, I would start to get these requests from students. "Hey, are you working on anything? Can I see what you're doing?" And so I do these sort of open art. I call them open art live streams, and I with students, and I work on my own personal projects. And I've been able to animate on paper and pencil, and I've entered my little films into festivals and won some awards, and that just sort of brings back into the students, because that's what I'm teaching them to do, is make their own films
Yeah.
and enter those into festivals. And so it's been fun. So we have students, and on our YouTube channel we post our student films, and then my film, and so it's just become really creative and really kind of come back to the beginning,
Mm.
because I sort of done away with, in this world, the all that corporation and all the big stuff, which means I can't do a great big movie, but I
Right.
can do something fun, and it can be really, really creative. So
That's
that's been great.
that's amazing. I think it's super encouraging to students, to see you doing something you're passionate about in your own way again. And
Yeah.
that's really encouraging, I'm sure, to them. Um, I like to ask, when I'm speaking to somebody who's really kind of lived their dream out, if you were talking to somebody, excuse me, if you were talking to somebody 14 to 16-year-old out there that was really, thinking, I want to do this with my life, and your journey. It took you a little while to get there, to the
Hmm.
dream school and to that. What would you say to them to just really encourage them to, pursue their passions, pursue their dreams? What would you encourage them with?
So I think what I would say, like, number one, determination over talent.
Mm-hmm.
I will credit that, sort of like, I just want to do this. The second thing I would say is, learn to look at failure through a different lens. Um, I think for me, I would get so discouraged if I failed, or if I wasn't good enough, or if I got rejected, and I'd just kind of go into the dumps. And I really had to learn to say, okay, failure is just a natural part of the process. So failure is an opportunity for me to identify the things I need to improve, and there's no shame in it.
Mm-hmm.
Why would there be? Everybody has to grow. Everybody has to learn. Everybody has to practice. Um, and so when I started, and of course it doesn't feel as good as, when things go well,
Right.
but if I can start to say, okay, wait a minute, and start to kind of remove the emotional piece of it, and start to analyze this can be a great tool to say, okay, here's what I need to do. Now I know what I need to work on, so I'm going to dive in.
Mm. I think that that's so true. I mean, just the persistence sometimes,
Hmm.
and staying with it. And I mean, we can look at so many examples from history of people who did great things, invented amazing things for all of us, who really failed,
Hmm.
multiple times on the way there, right? So
Yeah.
that it is encouraging, and it's a very, very true statement. I think just to stick with it, to be determined, and to grow in that. So, any other words of finalization here before we come to a close? Anything that you would just want to share?
It's I didn't see it coming, but between that little moment where I was doing hand drawn animation and then went to computer, I did a storyboard project with Chuck Jones, and Chuck
Okay.
Jones was the director of so many Bugs and Daffy cartoons. He was the man that I noticed on the credits in all of those amazing cartoons, and
Mm-hmm.
really inspired me as a kid to become an animator. And this project was an internet project called Thomas Timberwolf, and it wasn't anything special, but it was his last project, and he actually passed away in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he signed a copy of his book for me. That in it he said, "Keep drawing,"
Oh,
and I always kind of go back to that and say, just keep going, just keep drawing, keep pursuing this, for the sake of it,
mm-hmm.
not. for all the extra stuff that comes with it.
I love that. And that's a great story at the end there.
Good.
What an encouragement there for you too, to be able to work with someone that you had admired so much. Well, again, you get back to sky is the limit, and pursuing your dreams is worth it. And
yes,
I'm so glad you got to share your story with us, because it's evidence of that, right, for you, and not only enjoying that success, but then being able to share it now and encourage others and teach others to follow that path. So thank you so much, and so glad you were able to join us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to the Not by the Book podcast from the Florida Parent Educators Association. To learn more about homeschooling in Florida, or to find resources to help you on this amazing journey, visit our website at FPEA.com. If you have any suggestions for future guests, contact me, Suzanne, at notbythebook@fpea.com. Thanks again for listening, and be inspired to live your life not by the book.